Welcome back, Guardians. And today we're going to talk about something that many of you probably already do know, but that's okay. Hopefully you can walk away with a bit more knowledge needed coming into it, because that's usually the idea behind all these videos. But this will be about the factions of the city. Now, as you know of 3, if you haven't really delved into lore, but there are in all 4. We have the New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, you now have the Future War Cult, and then there was the Concordat. But you can go look up the Concordat. I did a full video on them. Look at them there. Their ideas differ, and that's what causes some problems within the tower. As you do know, there was a war between the factions, cleverly named the Faction Wars, back when Rez Lazir was still walking around. But the 2 old ones of the consensus, you may argue that the Future War Cult is old. That's true, they are very old, but the 2 main ones of the consensus were the New Monarchy and the Dead Orbit. You probably already know their ideals a little bit. The New Monarchy are very political. The form of government within the city is the consensus, and is pretty much just a republic government. It has factions or parties coming together and joining and talking about it. In the consensus, with the head of it all, the speaker. Was the speaker elected? I have no idea. That's kind of where it drifts off. The New Monarchy would like to have a new monarchy. They would like to have a single head of everyone, not a bunch of factions, because they were around during the time of the faction wars. They already knew what happened when a bunch of factions tried to work together. It doesn't work. One faction needs to get more power than the other, and that causes a arms race, and maybe some other factions are getting left in the dust. People are leaving, joining, fighting, infighting. It becomes a mess. It'd be really cool if there was a faction wars too. But great ideas for Bungo aside, the New Monarchy is also very pro-city. They want the city to survive. And this is where the ideas between each of the factions differs. It's how they look at the city and how they look at what they're going to do. Yes, the New Monarchy wants a new form of government, but the Future War Cult and the Dead Orbit, and maybe the Concordat, could really care less. They have better things and bigger things on their hands. Not trying to make the New Monarchy sound terrible, but they just have more on their mind. If you're part of the New Monarchy, you're probably going to follow these things. They want to secure the walls from the enemies. They want to secure the rights and liberties of every upstanding citizen. They would like to sponsor the sciences of the city and salvage ruins beyond so that our golden age might be reborn. They want to support guardian orders by leading the city in technological innovations. They want to support natural harmony of the city and actively dissuade any group or individual that might disrupt that harmony. They would like to hold all individuals, compacts, and alliances to the highest standards of productivity and right behavior. And the last one, all summed up, is pretty much to abolish the consensus with the consensus vote and transfer an ultimate power to a single person. So they're not going to overthrow the consensus. No, that's what the Concordat tried to do, and that's how they got destroyed. The New Monarchy would like to have the consensus vote against itself and to destroy itself. So you can bet that about 1/3 of that voting is to abolish it. But some of those 7 tenets, is what they are called, pretty much should be followed by everyone in general. The New Monarchy really applies to those people that don't want to try anything new. They stay within the city, they want to upgrade that city and make the city last as long as possible and create a new golden age, but I think that's on everyone's mind. The next we have the Dead Orbit. Now, much like every other faction, the name does speak a lot to it. Dead Orbit. The planet we live on today is doomed. The darkness will come, we will not survive another attack, and we must move on away from the dead orbit that the planet is going through. They really want to take the city and push it somewhere else altogether. They do realize that that would be very terrible though. They do understand that there would be much loss of life, but I guess you gotta do things to make the species survive as a whole, not really you individually. Instead of finding golden age technology in vaults to use for defense like the New Monarchy, they would like you to use it to create bigger and better ships to get as much people as possible and move out. Go to another planet. Pretty much just abandoning the Traveler because they have seen the Traveler not work for many years. Hundreds, if not. So what's to say that if the darkness were to come back, would they be able to defend it? Is everything the New Monarchy doing just worthless time to set up for an attack that is inevitable and not going to be able to defend? But that leads on to the Future War Cult, where they believe in the future war, and they're a cult. Now, apart from joining the consensus last in terms of the factions, because the Concordat was kicked out for rebelling against the consensus, the Future War Cult took their seat, But that doesn't mean they're necessarily new. The Future War Cult have been supposedly around since the Golden Age itself. There's been traces of them. Their ideas now, I don't really think so. The Future War Cult was founded by Dr. Maya Sundaresh. They were doing experiments on Vex-inspired mind-forking devices to look into the future, because the Vex have that power. However, it does make the user mentally unstable, and this caused them to worship these things as gods, which was not a great turnout. The modern Future War Cult recovered this design and device and rebuilt it within the city. They did, however, use this device to look into the future, and what they saw was not good. They saw the darkness was victorious over the city, and it had fallen. This is the main basis of the Future War Cult's beliefs. Oh, and the users also became insane, as just like the other ones did. But all in all, they are trying to put everything they can into military prowess. They're also very secret. That's a problem with the Future War Cult. And if you're also wondering why the Future War Cult was picked to be in the consensus really didn't see the Future War Cult as being dangerous. They thought it would be interesting for them to join. Why not? Let's give them a chance. What possibly could they do with building a military that could possibly overthrow the Hey, wait a minute. But to wrap up all the factions, you have the new monarchy trying to overthrow the consensus passively and to create a monarchy. Also, they are very pro-city. They wish to stay within the city and not move and just up its defenses and create a very massive stronghold. And then you have the dead orbit. Just say, forget the city, let's get away from here and create a new city somewhere else, much safer, away from the Traveler, because they think the Traveler is what caused all this suffering in the darkness. Then there's the Future War Cult, who kind of split between Dead Orbit, more New Monarchy, not necessarily care about the defenses of the city, but rather just fight off head-to-head against the darkness. They did see with a Vex eyeglass type device. Out of all of these, the Future War Cult seems the most promising and the most logical because they did see something. However, these people did become insane. This could be hallucinations. It could be not true. There is the fourth one called the Concordat, but there's not much known about them. I also did a video on them, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But anyways, that's been it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Later, Guardians.